So one of the biggest things that plagues anxiety sufferers is lack of sleep. And sleep is pretty important when it comes to mental health and when it just comes to overall health. But if you notice, if you're struggling with panic attacks, you're getting these intrusive thoughts, you're getting physical symptoms that really convince you there's something wrong, you get these feelings of unreality, it may really affect your sleep quality. And you may be getting even more annoyed and more frustrated about the fact that you can't sleep. And that may in turn, in fact, create more anxiety. In this video, I'm gonna talk about really how to start sleeping because it was one of the things that plagued me the most. But once I do a few things right, sleep was essentially effortless. So by the end of the video, I'll let you know exactly how to get back to sleep. So pay attention. So before I started experiencing panic attacks, before I started experiencing anxiety, I could sleep like a baby. And in fact, even now, I just hit the pillow and I pass out. But when I was struggling with anxiety, for like the 2 years I was really struggling with anxiety, a little bit over a year, I would say, I don't think I got more than 4 hours of sleep a night. And it really affected my quality of life. And so what would happen was I would feel exhausted for the whole day. And I would feel like I kept experiencing multiple panic attacks. I would have really high anxiety, so my body was just really tired. So I didn't really have a problem falling asleep, but my issue was I couldn't stay asleep. And I would be up by like 3 or 4, and I'd oftentimes wake up with a panic attack. And when I'd experienced the panic attack, I would essentially panic and be like, oh my God, why is this happening? I thought this was gone. And then I would pretty much get out of bed and pretty much just pace around the house. And this is something I see with so many individuals that are struggling with anxiety. It's typically a combination of 3 things. Either they have trouble falling asleep, they have trouble staying asleep, or both. And really the idea here is that what's ironic about all of this is that certain times when you're experiencing anxiety, you can do a few things to kind of help alleviate and kind of give your body and mind a chance to recover. Sleep is one of the most important things. But if you're having trouble sleeping, it seems like this vicious cycle. It feels like, well, the lack of sleep is creating more anxiety, and the more anxiety is creating like lack of sleep. Now, there's a lot of reasons why you may not be able to fall asleep. For me, it was the most intrusive thoughts. My mind was racing. I would get these thoughts. What if it's this? What if it's that? I would also experience palpitations a lot, and that would kind of scare me. I wouldn't want to sit in one place. So that's what it was for me. For you, it may be a different physical symptom. It may be the intrusive thoughts. It may be that your derealization, depersonalization are really strong. It may be some of the emotions. But whatever it is, oftentimes it's something that's very loud. That symptom is really loud, and that's preventing you from sleeping. One of the things to really focus on is when you're focused on sleep, it's really important to recognize that the first thing you need to do is throw all these symptoms under the anxiety umbrella. Whether it's physical symptoms like palpitations, dizziness, nausea, the choking sensation, sweating, you name it. That has to be thrown into the anxiety umbrella. The second thing, the most important thing, a thing a lot of individuals miss is these intrusive thoughts are also an offset of anxiety. Meaning, a lot of the times we're used to identifying with our own thoughts. Oh, I want to do this. Oh, I need to go to the bathroom. I need to do this. Like whatever it is. But when you're struggling with anxiety, anxiety creates its own thoughts. So you start feeling the palpitations. Oh no, what if it's an onset of a heart attack? You get these scary intrusive thoughts. Oh my God, what if I'm going to hurt myself? What am I going to do this? It's all just part of anxiety. And what happens is people kind of identify with those thoughts. Now, the important thing here is you have to understand that just like the physical symptoms, just like the feelings of unreality, the thoughts also have to be under the anxiety umbrella. So throwing the thoughts under the anxiety umbrella. And to really understand a little bit more about how anxiety works, you really have to understand the mechanics of anxiety. You can't really focus on how to overcome and how to get back to sleep if you really don't know what's happening. So the first most important thing is to understand, well, what is anxiety, what's not? How does anxiety work? If you just understood a few principles of how anxiety works, you would understand intuitively what the solutions are. So if you really want to know more, what I'll do is I'll put a link down below. This is a link to my private report. This is what I've essentially written out is step-by-step how to really overcome. I have a mentorship program where I'm guiding people step-by-step to recovery, full recovery, and I want to make sure they never fall back in. What I've done is the steps in the program, I've kind of laid it out in a book form, kind of in a written form, and I've given it out to you for free. There's nothing hidden, there's no secret, there's nothing there, and there's no hidden cost. It's absolutely for you and it's absolutely free. The reason why I wrote this is because, look, I'm helping people fully overcome, but you know, for whatever reason, if people can't join my mentorship, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't get the steps to recover. So what I've done is I've laid it out for you so that there is no more excuse. There's no excuse for you not to recover. It's not this idea of, oh, I didn't know how to recover. These steps really show you, A, the mechanics, and really focus on the solution. So definitely check that link down below. So once you understand that all these symptoms are just an offset of anxiety, once you really understand the mechanics of anxiety, then the next thing to do is throw it under the anxiety umbrella when you sleep as well. Here's what I mean. For a lot of individuals, they have trouble with intrusive thoughts. Their mind is racing. It's just going 100 miles an hour. And what happens is, you know, their mind is thinking, oh my God, am I ever gonna get out of this? Is this gonna be me forever? Why does everyone else not have to deal with this, but I have to deal with this? What if this symptom is something terribly wrong and, you know, by the time doctors find out, it's too late? You can see how the mind is running. And oftentimes what individuals are doing is they're fighting with that thought. Oh, well, what if it is something else? Well, you've gotten everything ruled out. A better approach is just letting the thoughts burn themselves out. So when you're getting these intrusive thoughts when you sleep, instead of trying to fight it out, just label it as an offset of anxiety, because that's what it is. See, if these aren't your thoughts, then what's the point of even arguing with them? So just let the thoughts be there. And what often happens is, whether it's the thoughts or whether it's physical symptoms, this also applies with physical symptoms, all you need to do is allow it to be there. Now what happens is that when you allow it to be there without fighting it, without analyzing it, just allowing it, what happens is the symptoms come up, they get really high, they actually get a little scary. They kind of scare you too. And it's not a fun feeling. I'll admit, it's not fun. Like it's pretty uncomfortable. But if you just let it burn itself out, what happens is that it burns itself out and you kind of just naturally just drift off to sleep. A lot of times it's not about trying to fight these symptoms or anything like that. It's just allowing it to be there, not trying to fight it, and it just kind of goes away. In fact, what used to happen with me is that I used to wake up around maybe 3 or 4 a.m. every morning from a panic attack. It was just no matter what happened, I would experience it. And a panic attack is really intense. And so what I would just do is, once I understood what was happening from that report down below, I just allowed the panic attack to happen. And I would just allow myself to have a full-blown panic attack, and I told myself, no matter what, I'm not getting out of bed. Like, unless I had to go to the restroom or something, of course, but I just ended up not getting out of bed. I just stayed there. And that was really hard to do. It was much easier to want to get up and pace or call a friend or something like that, but instead I just stayed. And what would happen oftentimes is the panic attack would go up, and then as it died down, ironically, I would fall asleep. I would almost fall asleep in the middle of a panic attack. I know it sounds weird, but that's exactly what would happen. And then I would wake up and it would be 9 o'clock and I was like, oh my God, you know, I got a few extra hours of sleep. And so what happened is that while I was focused on anxiety recovery, once I understood how to sleep a little bit better, it actually reinforced anxiety recovery. Now look, this is all with the assumption that you're doing basic sleep hygiene, right? And like, that's not hard to find what sleep hygiene is, right? Like, not looking at your phone before you go into sleep, you know, not watching, you know, scary movies, or just things that are appropriate for, you know, sleeping. You want to be in a dark room. You have to assume that, I have to assume that you're doing all these things correctly. I know I was doing all these things correctly, but I still wasn't sleeping. And so it wasn't until I really focused on this crucial step that really allowed me to focus on actually going back to sleep. Now, here's a critical thing to consider, and this is something I tell all of my clients. Look, anxiety and sleep are kind of similar in the sense that it really happens when you let go. Here's what I mean. With anxiety, a lot of times you may be noticing that you're trying to control a lot of things, and that the lack of control is kind of affecting you in a way where you kind of want even more control. And I see that same pattern with sleep, meaning a lot of times people that are struggling with anxiety, they're like, okay, I want to sleep exactly at 10 o'clock. I want to make sure I get exactly 8 hours of sleep. And they put too much pressure on themselves. Sleep happens when you let go. If you add pressure to yourself, if you say no matter what, I'm going to sleep at 10 and I'm going to make sure it's 7 hours of sleep, it's not going to happen. It's just not. Sleep happens again, like I say, when you just release and let go. Anxiety is the same way. So it's really crucial to understand that you kind of have to have that same attitude with sleep, kind of like with anxiety, which is, Okay, well, if the symptoms are there, if the physical symptoms are there, if the intrusive thoughts are there, if the feelings of unreality are there, cool. If they're not there, that's fine. That's the same attitude you should have with sleep, which is, okay, well, if I sleep, I sleep. If I don't, that's okay too. Now, I know that seems kind of counterintuitive. It seems like kind of a paradox. But the truth is, sleep happens when you let go. But if you put too much pressure, that's a 100% way to make sure that you just don't sleep. You'll just be frustrated, you'll add more pressure, which will create more anxiety. So take the pressure off. Have the attitude of if you sleep, it's cool. If you don't, that's cool. You'll sleep the next night. You will eventually sleep. So if you really want to know more about not just how to recover, but how to recover and never fall back in, I've noticed the fastest way to get out of this once and for all is honestly just having a guide and just taking you step by step. A lot of times, a lot of individuals end up watching these videos, going on Google, checking out forums, trying to piecemeal all these things, not really sure what's right information, what's wrong information. It can be quite frustrating. The best way is really just to have someone who's recovered themselves, who's helped other people recover, to just take you step by step. So if that's you, and if you just want to get back to sleeping and just have all the stuff pushed aside and just focus on recovery, then why don't we just do it together? Why don't I just take you by the hand and I'll just take you to recovery myself? So if that's you, I'll put a link down below. This is a link to my mentorship program. What I've done is I've gotten a small group of individuals and I'm just taking them by the hand to recovery myself. I'm just making sure I'm removing any obstacle they have and just focus on overcoming so that they can leave this all behind and just go back to enjoying life the way they used to. Not really concerned about sleep, more concerned about going out with friends, having fun. So if that's you, hit the link down below. When you do, it's gonna lead you to a short video followed by a scheduler page. You have to just fill out the schedule, fill out the application. My team and I will review your application, see if you're a good fit. And if so, we'll have a call with you. We'll analyze your strengths, we'll figure out your biggest roadblocks, and we'll honestly come up with a strategy with you. And the cost for this is absolutely free. And if you're a good fit, we'll invite you to the mentorship program. I will personally take you to recovery. So if that's you, hit the link down below. I'll see you inside.